We're process based. I mean, everybody's looking for good football players, but we got to dig into the character and all that stuff. There might be little tweaks here and there depending upon once we get the staff together, but we have an organizational philosophy now that we've talked about doing things consistently and the type of bodies we're looking for, and they'll fit with the little tweaks that we talk about with the new staff.
I know that Brian's been here for a couple of years now, but now that he's the head coach, where do you feel like the alignment is from the front office to the coaching staff with Brian at the helm and with you and your department in terms of all being on the same page of whether it be what guys you're looking for, how you want to build this roster, things like that?
I think that's the greatest part, is being aligned from top down, and that's one of the commitments that we all made sitting in there about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. It starts with ownership coming down, but Shotty's got a plan, got a vision. We're going to support that, and then what we'll do is continue to, add good players. I have a great feeling about Shotty, what he's looking for. He's going to communicate. He's going to over-communicate. He's going to ask his staff to do that, and they're going to over-communicate with us, and we're going to over-communicate with them. That's how we're going to get it done the first year, and we'll continue to grow and get better at it.
What kind of emphasis are you trying to build with the staff, or the front office? What kind of emphasis are you trying to build within the staff?
What we're trying to do is continue to drive ourselves to look for not only the best players, athletes, all that stuff, but the guys that have the mental that that it's going to take for us to get over the top. Paying more closer attention to the kind of the football character and those things, and seeing if they fit that way as well.
Is that any sort of change, the character side from the McCarthy team?
No, not really. Guys emphasize it. Each coach is going to emphasize it a little bit more, but I think as an organization and on the scouting staff, it's one of the things each year we try and go back and look at, okay, what's this, what's that, and compare guys. And, they get into the league now. It's a different atmosphere that we're getting players from. Now they're getting paid in college. They're transferring 2-3 schools. It's how do we dig and find that information? How do we find out about the core of the players? Really the thing that we really want to dig in now, because it's going to require us to the way the conditions are.
In the press conference yesterday, Jerry talked about how he had conversations with Shotty before he was even a part of the organization. Does your relationship reach back that far as to when you first met Schottenheimer and kind of the first impression along the way?
No, it started, my interaction with him started when he was here in the original role and saw how he grinded. And he was a really big part of the advance process and helping, the coaches get ready. So we spent a lot of time talking. He spent a lot of time talking to the pro staff. And so you got a great feel for his understanding of personnel, how personnel's used. And he explains and he sometimes over-explains what he's looking for, but that's important to our process. We got to know what we're looking for, and I feel really good about him doing it.
I'm not trying to compare him to previous regimes, but how much do you expect him to be a part of the draft process and be a part of personnel?
Coaches are a part of the draft process. That's what we do, and that's what we build, and that's why we've had success, is having ownership, scouting, and coaching together and having a vision and sharing that. And really what we do is, if we all don't like him, that's probably going to be a hard pick. So we want to get that buy-in from everyone, and it's important as we go as an organization, is if we all have that buy-in, we all see it the same, it gives us a great opportunity to have success.
You mentioned that you were in the room with all the candidates. What made you buy into Brian Schottenheimer?
Just knowing him and being around him, knowing where he came from. I mean, a lot of the things that you've heard are very true, where, in this day and age in the NFL, it's the new hot shot that, maybe he's been coaching 3, 4, 5 years. Well, Brian was that guy. He's got that passion. He's got that commitment. Grew up in football, can have a conversation with anyone, and an honest conversation with anyone. So his ability to do that and to connect, like part of the interview, I watched him connect with different people in different ways, and that's a huge part of the head coaching thing that helps push you over the top, and that you only get that from experience.
The draft nerd in me, obviously you don't have to get into a ton of specifics with this class overall. What are your initial impressions?
I think there's some good players. I think there's middle depth. We'll begin to see what that top, the top first round talent is, how deep that goes. But there's a lot of good players. It's just finding the right value for them, to add to your roster. You just want to have the right value for them.
You're always trying to find star players, but how much increase in emphasis is on depth as well, especially with the way free agency has kind of panned out these last couple of years? Is there a seeking out for depth at the same time, kind of balancing that with finding the star guys too?
Yeah, you gotta have depth. The thing about the NFL, if you're playing 17 games, you see how we've expanded the practice roster and all those things, is you gotta have depth. And the key is having guys. I mean, you think about all the injuries we had this year. I mean, we played 10 corners in a year. That's the largest number that I've ever played because of injuries. And you look at the defensive line, so and you can never cover yourself up all the way because you never know when they're going to come. But depth also increases competition.
How do you plan for depth like that whenever it does kind of marry with the free agency and the draft process, because you're not out there drafting a guy to be a second string player. You're out there drafting the best football player possible. How do you kind of balance the fact of just going and getting a good football player versus what you might need from a depth standpoint?
I mean, I think it's the balancing act, because it's going to take all the players, and you want to get them all in camp and battle and see who's the starter, who's the backup, where the depth is. That's where competition is key. If you get good players, that will figure itself out.
Why do you guys keep coming to the Senior Bowl? What makes the Senior Bowl special for you and Cowboys?
The Senior Bowl gives us an opportunity to visit with the players, to talk to them, to get in front of them. To they're not in this in the friendly confines of their university where they've been, where things are maybe protected. We get to find out more about them personally, and then seeing them practice in an NFL environment, getting out on the field where they have to work. Sometimes in college you might hit it late season, you might not see a guy work out, whatever. But this gives an opportunity to see him in action, to look him in the face and talk to him, and find out more of what's inside as well.
Is there any funny interview moment or something that's happened in the past that you'd be willing to share?
Well, there was a kid, it was probably 6-7 years back, very intense personality, and I was asking him about his major, and I can't remember what the major was, but it had something to do with criminology and the law. So I can't remember what it was, but he says, okay, and I asked him about a scenario, and he says, okay, it's like this. What if I killed you? So that was one that still sticks in my mind.
Intense personality.
Yeah.
Did you end up drafting him?
No.
Now, how important is that? You talked about looking a guy in the face and getting to know them. There's a long draft process with the visits and the combine. How important is this first impression that the Senior Bowl allows?
It's the first impression of who they are. We've gathered the information, so now we get to maybe put a little bit of our own flavor in it, see who's telling us the truth or not, and also digging and finding out about the player. They may be telling you everything's perfect, but now it's our job to dig and find out, where the warts are, where the holes are, and, seeing how they interact. It's also important to see carrying on conversations, carrying on school of thought. It's all those things that we look for to kind of give us another piece of the puzzle.
How does that importance compare to the X's and O's of what they show in practice and throughout the week on the field?
Well, one of the things that Shadi's talked about, one of the things that Dak is huge on, is the culture. It's the locker room. It's the people you bring in the locker room. So when you spend time with them, you get to find out more. You get to see how those personalities could potentially fit. As we get to learn the new coaches and find those things out, those are all parts of, guys making it and not. It's the fit and, who they are as people.
Do you feel, do we have any kind of, it's the Texas kids that come out of Texas and play. Can you talk a little bit about the Texas kids, the local area kids that you get to see in the great state of Texas?
Yeah, the great part about being, especially in the Dallas area, is the amount of talent that comes out of the area. If they went to high school or college in the area, we have an opportunity to get somewhat of a free visit with those guys and bring them into our facility. And so that gives us another opportunity. We've got a bigger pool. It's like, I'm glad we're not in Green Bay, we're in Dallas. So you got a bigger pool to choose from in getting to know players and doing all that stuff. So it gives us cast a wide net, and being a Texas football guy myself, that's where the best football's played.